Hi, I'm Amy, and my parents have asked me to read you the story of Canadian Thanksgiving. Canada is a special place. On Canadian Thanksgiving, we get together to say thanks and celebrate our country's multiculturalism. But where did Canadian Thanksgiving come from? In 1578, Martin Frobisher sailed from England in search of the Northwest Passage. The Northwest Passage was a channel that would make it easy for England to conquer the ancient Chinese and enslave the dragons that guarded their vast mines full of MSG. Martin Frobisher's fleet had 15 ships in it, but when they got to the icy lands of Canada, they lost one ship right away because the ship's navigator was drunk and tried to run over a walrus because he hated the way it looked. Let us give thanks that guy is dead. He was my wife's cousin, and she made me bring him, but he was an idiot anyhow, declared the stalwart Martin Frobisher. At this point in the journey, they had arrived at the area of Baffin Island. This is where they made contact for the first time with Inuit people. Martin Frobisher walked up to a man building an Inukshuk. "Where is the Northwest Passage, my new friends? And why are you building a robot out of rocks?" The Inuit man was so scared of Martin's extremely British teeth, he said nothing. After a pregnant pause, the Inuit man left to go get something to eat. "Let us give thanks we aren't staying here, because that guy seems super boring," proclaimed the dashing Martin Frobisher. The winter was long and cold, and to add to the expedition's worries, somebody back in England had played a prank and switched their winter wear for sunglasses. "I bet it was that jerk Samuel de Champlain," said Big Daddy Frobes. Things were getting bad. People were dying of cold, and they were too distraught to invent hockey, which was bothering them. Luckily, they had a religious wizard on board. Maester Wolfall was a big, fat, jolly man, who the men affectionately called Friar Tuck. He had a warm face and a kind smile, and knew how to cast spells to make the bilge rats on the ships dance, and could pull the cork from a wine bottle by snapping his fingers. He stood on the deck of the ship in a position where all the crews of all the boats could see him. "My sons, let us give thanks this day. We may be out of food. We may only have these awesome sunglasses to wear. The people who occupy this land may be fairly depressing and unhelpful and make rock robots we don't understand. But we have each other. We have our sense of adventure, and I say, give thanks. Give thanks for our country. Give thanks for the harvests back home that grow tall and wide. Give thanks for the spirits of this land, which will surely exhibit a sign soon that our journey is one the divines have willed us to take." At that point in his speech, there was a huge crack, as the cold had racked the mizzenmast to the very bone. It crashed down upon the head of Maester Wolfall, killing him mid-speech. All the ships fell silent. Then Martin Frobisher spoke. "Let us give thanks," began the unflappable Martin Frobisher, "that we will never live here, in this barren and stupid place. Honestly, it's like the worst here. Anyone who lives within 3,000 miles of here is really fucking dumb. The animals are ugly and mean, and there's pretty much nothing to do. Let us give thanks that the fattest guy just died, because I figure he'll probably last us the voyage back. Let's steal all we can get and leave this snowbox in the goddamn lurch." That night, before they went home, they had a final feast where they clustered around the fat wizard and served him up to a newly energized crew, ready to go back home. They invited the Inuit people they had met to join, but the Inuit people saw they were eating a person, and that was a weird turn of events to them, so they didn't want to get involved. Some Vikings came later too, but there were totally no chicks, so they ducked out early after they stole a case of lucky beer. The next day, Martin Frobisher and his fleet sailed back to England. They brought with them over 1,000 tons of what they thought was precious gold ore. They arrived back in England and found out it was worthless. "Let us give thanks," said Jiminy Clutterbuck, a new character we are introducing briefly, "that we no longer have to work with Martin Frobisher, one of the worst expedition leaders in the history of king and country." I'm standing right here, said Martin Frobisher, but everyone just smirked and no one apologized. The end.